I built my empire with cold precision. No distractions, no emotions, and definitely no love. Love, to me, was the quickest way to lose control. And control is what made me a billionaire before 35. So I made a rule: never fall in love, especially not with someone who works for me. Then she walked in, smart mouth, sharp eyes, stubborn as hell, and suddenly, every rule I lived by started to crack. This is how I fell in love with my secretary. Despite every plan not to. I don't do small talk. I don't do office birthday cakes. And I damn sure don't do emotions. I'm not heartless. I'm just focused. There's a difference. I built Cole and Hart from nothing. Me and my ex-best friend, before he sold me out. Since then, I've kept my circle tight. Loyalty is rare. So is competence. Which is why my last executive assistant lasted 2 weeks. She cried when I asked her to redo a presentation. Cried. This is business, not therapy. So when HR told me they'd found a new candidate, I didn't get my hopes up. Until she walked in. Her name was Lila Grant. Hair like honey spilled in sunlight. No-nonsense blazer. Eyes that didn't flinch when they met mine. Mr. Cole, she said, calm, cool. I'm here to make your life easier, not babysit your ego. I almost laughed. Almost. Most people shrink under pressure. Lila seemed to sharpen, like she was built for storms. Still, I didn't hire her for her attitude. I hired her because she was good, too good. Her resume was flawless. Her references were better. And most importantly, she didn't flirt. That should have made her safe. I told myself she was just another employee, just another piece in the machine. But that night, after she left, I found myself wondering, what made her smile like that when she thought no one was watching? That was the first crack. The first rule I broke. I noticed her. 3 weeks. That's how long she'd worked for me. And in that time, Lila Grant did the impossible. She organized my chaotic calendar, fired 2 deadweight vendors, and caught a multi-million-dollar error the CFO missed. She didn't ask for praise. She just fixed things. Efficient, unbothered, cold almost. Like me. We had a rhythm: early mornings, late nights. Minimal talk, maximum output. But every now and then, she let something slip. A laugh that caught me off guard. A look when she thought I wasn't paying attention. A softness in her voice when she said, "You should get some rest, Mr. Cole." I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I didn't care. But it was getting harder to believe that. One night, we stayed late finalizing a merger contract. The office was quiet. Lights low. Rain tapping the windows. "You know," she said, flipping through papers, "you might live longer if you smiled once in a while." I glanced up. Smiling doesn't close deals. She smirked. "Neither does grinding your teeth till they crack." I should have ignored her. Changed the subject. But instead, I said, "Why did someone like you take a job like this?" Her eyes flicked up to mine. "Someone like me? You're overqualified. You have a law degree. You could be working anywhere." She hesitated, then shrugged. "Maybe I wanted a front row seat to the empire." Then, after a beat, or maybe I just needed the paycheck. There was something in her voice. A quiet weight. Like she wasn't just here for the job. Like she was running from something. I didn't ask. I didn't push. Because crossing that line, getting personal, meant opening a door I'd slammed shut years ago. I didn't want to know what made her eyes shadow like that. I didn't want to care. But that night, after she left, I sat alone in my office, her words echoing in my head. Maybe I just needed the paycheck. And I wondered, for the first time in a long time, what it would feel like to be needed for something more than money. That was the second crack. The second rule I broke. I wanted to understand her. I don't make coffee runs. That's what interns are for. But that morning, I walked into her office before she could head out and handed her a cup. Black, no sugar, exactly how she liked it. She blinked at me. Did hell freeze over? Or is this a peace offering? I shrugged. Figured if I'm going to work you to death, might as well fuel the fire. She smiled. Not the polite one she wore in meetings. This one was real. Soft. Unfiltered. And I felt it somewhere I shouldn't have. She took the coffee. Our fingers brushed. Just for a second. Too long. "Thank you," she said. And for a moment, I saw the girl beneath the armor. Grateful. Tired. Human. We didn't talk much that day, but something shifted. Later that week, I walked into the break room and found her sitting at the small table, staring into space. Not working. Not scrolling. Just lost. "Everything all right?" I asked. She jumped slightly, then recovered. "Fine. Just tired." You've been staying late. So have you. Fair point. But I didn't care about me. I leaned against the counter. You don't have to pretend with me, Lila. She looked up at that, a flicker of something in her eyes. Then she said, quietly, I used to be engaged. That stopped me. She wasn't the type to offer personal details. Ever. He left when my dad got sick. She continued. Said I was too distracted. Too emotionally unavailable. Her voice was dry. Bitter. Irony, right? I didn't know what to say to that. I'd never been engaged. Never even let anyone close enough to try. But I knew abandonment. I knew what it felt like when people walked out the moment you stopped being convenient. Sounds like he was a coward, I said. She gave a hollow laugh. Maybe. Or maybe he just saw the truth before I did. That some people are meant to be alone. And there it was. That familiar weight in my chest. The one I hadn't felt in years. I could have let it go. Should have. But I found myself saying, You're not alone, Lila. She looked at me. Really looked. And for a second, I wasn't her boss. I was just a man standing in front of a woman who'd been hurt like hell, telling her she mattered. That was the third crack. The third rule I broke. I let her see me. The problem with walls is that once they crack, they don't stop. One day it's just a glance too long. The next, it's your heartbeat stalling every time she walks in the room. I told myself it was harmless. Attraction fades. Work doesn't. But then came Chicago. A last-minute trip to salvage a deal going sideways. My usual travel assistant was out sick. Lila offered to come. It's just 2 days, she said. I've already booked the flights, the hotel, and rescheduled your meetings. Unless you want to handle it all yourself? She knew damn well I didn't. The first night, after 12 hours of negotiations, we ended up at the rooftop bar of the hotel. Just us. City lights sprawling beneath us like fireflies. The kind of night that makes you forget who you are. She was wearing a navy dress. Simple. Elegant. Dangerous. I didn't take you for a whiskey man, she said, sipping hers. I didn't take you for someone who drinks it neat. She smiled. There's a lot you don't know about me. I wanted to know all of it. Every sharp edge, every soft piece she kept hidden. But I kept my mouth shut. Mostly. We talked about everything but work. Music. Childhood. The books she used to read under her covers at night. I told her about the garage I slept in when I was 16. The one I turned into a company 3 years later. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't performing. I was just there, with her. Later, in the elevator, something shifted. She was standing inches from me. I could feel her breathing, see the pulse at her throat. Her voice was soft. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A shark in a suit. Cold. Calculated. Untouchable. I took a step closer. And now, her eyes didn't flinch. Now I'm not so sure. The air between us was electric. One move, and it would have happened. I would have kissed her, pulled her in, forgotten every rule I ever made. But I didn't. I stepped back, let the elevator doors open, watched her walk to her room without turning around. Because I knew, if I touched her, I wouldn't stop. That was the fourth crack. The fourth rule I broke. I wanted her. And for the first time in years, I was scared of what that meant. The morning after Chicago, I was different. Not visibly. Not in a way anyone else could see. But something had shifted. Like a current running just beneath the surface. Dangerous. Restless. Waiting to pull me under. Lila walked into the office like nothing happened. Like we hadn't nearly kissed. Like she hadn't told me things that cracked me open. Your 9 a.m. was moved to 10, she said, placing a file on my desk. Also, your lawyer called. He wants to review the equity clause before Thursday. Thanks. My voice came out rougher than I meant it to. She paused. Her eyes flicked up, just for a second. Searching. You okay? I nodded. Too quickly. Lie number 1. The truth? I hadn't slept. My mind kept replaying the way she looked at me in the elevator. Like she saw all of me. And didn't flinch. I thought I could bury it. Focus harder. Work longer. That's always been my way. Drown feelings in productivity. But with her, it didn't work. Every meeting, I could feel her presence just outside the glass wall. Every time she laughed down the hall, something in me twisted. I tried to shut it down. Tried to tell myself it was just physical. Just proximity. Lie number 2. Because the truth was, I'd never stayed up wondering what someone was doing at 2 a.m. I'd never caught myself thinking about her smile. While sitting across from board members, I'd never memorized the way someone looked when they were angry, amused, hurt, and wanted to protect all three. This wasn't proximity. It wasn't harmless. And the worst part? She wasn't doing anything wrong. She was working, loyal, professional. I was the one unraveling. That afternoon, she knocked on my door. I'm heading out early. My dad's having a follow-up scan. My chest tightened. You want me to have someone drive you? She blinked. You don't have to. I know I don't have to, I said. I want to. She looked at me for a long second, then nodded. Okay. The car ride was quiet. She sat beside me, fingers clenched in her lap, but didn't speak. I didn't push, just sat with her in the silence. Let her know I was there. When we reached the hospital, she turned to me. Thank you for this. I nodded, but didn't say what I was thinking. That she didn't need to thank me. That I would have driven her across the country if she asked. That I was falling for her, faster than I wanted, deeper than I planned. That was the fifth crack. The fifth rule I broke. I stopped pretending it wasn't real. After the hospital, I did the only thing I knew how to do when things got too close. I pulled away. No more late-night meetings. No rooftop drinks. No quiet car rides or coffee breaks. I kept it cold, professional, unshakable. Lila didn't question it. She was too smart for that. She gave me space. She stayed sharp, but I could see the shift in her. The spark in her eyes dimmed. The ease between us fractured. And still, I didn't fix it. Because the truth was, I was terrified. Terrified that if I touched her again, I'd never stop. Terrified that if I let her in, she'd eventually leave. Just like everyone else. I had built my world around control. She was the one variable I couldn't manage. Then came the gala. Annual investors event. Black tie. Cameras. Handshakes. Smiles I didn't mean. Lila showed up in a deep emerald dress that should have been illegal. Hair pinned back. Eyes lined like sin. Every man in that room noticed her. But she only looked at me. Don't worry, she said, slipping her hand through my arm like it was nothing. I'll play the part. And that's exactly what she did. All night. Charming. Composed. Deadly efficient. I watched her make small talk with billionaires, brush off flirty execs, and stand next to me like we were a team. Like we always had been. But I could see it in her smile. The distance. The wall she'd built in response to mine. And suddenly, I hated myself for putting it there. Later that night, I found her on the balcony, away from the noise. Her arms were crossed. Her face unreadable. You clean up well? I said. She didn't turn around. Is this your version of conversation now? I stepped closer. I've been trying to keep things simple. She finally looked at me. Then stopped making them complicated. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Honest. I didn't mean to pull away, I said quietly. You did anyway. I thought it would be easier. Safer. She let out a breath. For who? Me? Or you? I didn't answer. Because the truth was, being near her scared the hell out of me. But losing her scared me more. That was the sixth crack. The sixth rule I broke. I let her see the fear. And somehow, she didn't run. Some moments split your life in two, before and after. This was mine. After the gala, I stopped pretending. No more avoiding her eyes. No more burying the way I felt. But I still hadn't said it. Not out loud. Not yet. And maybe I wouldn't have, if that night hadn't happened. It started with a storm. The city shut down early. Roads flooded. My driver couldn't get through. I stayed late, finishing calls. I figured Lila had already gone. But when I stepped out of my office, her light was still on. She was curled up on the couch in the break room. Heels off, blanket over her knees. Tapping away at her laptop. You're still here? I asked. She glanced up. Didn't want to drown on the way home. You. Same. The building groaned with thunder. Rain hit the windows like war drums. I crossed the room. Sat on the edge of the couch. Too close. Not close enough. She watched me for a long time. Are we going to talk about it? I didn't ask what it was. I knew. I tried to stay away, I said. Tried to keep the line clear. She gave a bitter laugh. Yeah, I noticed. But I can't anymore. Her breath hitched. Just slightly. Why? Because I can't stop thinking about you. Because every time I walk into a room, I look for you. Because you make this life, this cold, relentless life, feel like something I actually want. But all I said was, because you matter to me more than you're supposed to. She stared at me, expression unreadable. I couldn't tell if she was going to run or scream or slap me. Then she whispered, I didn't come here to fall for you, Ethan. I swallowed hard. Neither did I. We sat there, lightning slicing the sky. Silence stretching between us like a held breath. Then she reached for my hand. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just real. And that was it. The dam broke. I pulled her into me like I'd been starving for it. Like every part of me knew she was the only thing that made sense anymore. She kissed me like she knew what I was afraid of and didn't care. Like I wasn't too broken, too cold, too far gone. And I knew in that moment. There was no going back. That was the seventh crack. The seventh rule I broke. I let her love me. Love makes you reckless. That night changed everything, but not just for us. In the world I live in, nothing stays secret for long. 3 days after the storm, a headline hit the business blogs. Billionaire Ethan Cole involved with his secretary? Sources say more than business. Lila didn't say anything when she saw it. She didn't have to. The damage was already done. Whispers followed her down the hallway. Backhanded comments in meetings. Looks that said she'd slept her way up. It didn't matter that none of it was true. Perception is truth in this world. And it was killing her. I can handle it, she told me, voice flat. I didn't believe her. You shouldn't have to handle it, I said. She looked me in the eye. And what, Ethan? You're going to shut down the internet? Fire half your staff because they talk? I didn't answer. Because yes, I wanted to burn it all down. Instead, I told her to take a few days off. Let it pass. But she didn't want space. She wanted respect. And she wanted it without hiding what we were. That's when I realized the risk wasn't just to her reputation. It was to us. Because I'd asked her into my world without thinking about how brutal it could be. And she was strong, but even steel bends under pressure. 2 days later, she walked into my office, pale but calm. I've put in my resignation, she said. The words hit harder than any headline. What? I can't stay, Ethan. Not like this. Not while everyone's looking at me like I'm your mistake. You're not. I know that. But they don't. And I need to remember who. I am outside of this place, outside of you. I stood, crossed to her. You don't have to go. She looked up, eyes wet. Yes, I do. I wanted to argue, beg, but I didn't. Because she wasn't asking for permission. She was reminding me that love, real love, doesn't ask someone to shrink, just to stay close. That was the eighth crack. The eighth rule I broke. I let her go, even though it felt like losing the only thing that ever made me feel whole. She was gone. Her desk was empty, her nameplate removed, and the silence left in her place was deafening. I tried to work like nothing had changed. Tried to fill the hours with numbers, meetings, power plays. But the truth is, the only thing I wanted to chase wasn't a deal, it was her. I thought giving her space was the right move. Noble, respectful. But weeks passed, and the space just got colder. She didn't reach out. I didn't either. Not because I didn't want to. Because I was scared I'd say the wrong thing. Or worse, nothing she needed to hear. Then came the board meeting. Routine updates. Quarterly goals. No surprises. Until one of the executives made a joke. Funny how fast assistants rotate through this place. Or maybe that one just got too close to the sun. The room chuckled. A few tried to look away. I didn't laugh. I stood, looked the man dead in the eyes. If anyone in this room thinks she was just a secretary, you're an idiot. She held this company together when half of you were too lazy or entitled to do your jobs. The room went quiet. She was the best hire I ever made, I said, and I let her walk away. I left the meeting without another word. Because I finally understood. I wasn't just in love with her. I respected her, and I'd never said it when it counted. So I did the one thing I swore I'd never do. I chased her. I found her in a small consulting office downtown. Smaller space, better light. She looked happier, but surprised to see me. You really don't know how to knock, she said. I've never been good at waiting. She leaned back, arms crossed. What do you want, Ethan? I walked in, closed the door behind me. To say what I should have said a long time ago. She didn't speak, so I filled the silence. You were never just my secretary. You were the first person who ever made me want more than the life I built. The first one I trusted. You're the smartest, strongest person I know. And I've been a damn coward pretending I could live without you. Her expression cracked. Just slightly. You think saying that now fixes it? No, I said. But it's the truth. And I'd rather fall flat on my face telling you that than spend one more day pretending it. Doesn't kill me to be without you. She stared at me, quiet, then whispered, do you still love me? I stepped closer. I never stopped. That was the ninth crack. The ninth rule I broke. I fought for her. And this time, she didn't walk away. Love wasn't supposed to happen. Not to me. Not in the life I built out of armor and ambition. But there she was, standing in the middle of her small, sunlit office, looking at me like maybe, Just maybe, we still had a shot. You broke your rules, she said. I nodded. Every single one. She stepped closer. And now what? I didn't have a speech. I didn't need one. Now, I choose her. Not in secret. Not in silence. Not with conditions or exits lined up in case things got messy. I reached for her hand. I know I made mistakes. I know I pushed you away when I should have held you closer. But I'm not that man anymore. She looked down at our hands, then back up at me. You're still impossible. And you're still everything I never saw coming. She smiled, soft and tired and real. If we do this, we do it honestly. No hiding. No backup plans. No walls. I nodded. No walls. And just like that, the last rule shattered. We left her office together. No apologies. No fear. I brought her back to the company, but not to her old role. She started her own department, strategic development. Her idea. Her leadership. Her name on the door. And every time I passed her in the hallway, I smiled. Because now, they knew. Not about the gossip or the headlines or the storm. They knew she was the woman I built everything with. Not behind me. Not beneath me. Beside me. Months later, I took her back to the rooftop where we almost kissed the first time. Same view. Same city. Only difference. This time, I didn't hesitate. I took out a ring. Small. Simple. Timeless. Like her. She laughed, eyes wet. You really didn't plan on falling in love, did you? No, I said. But I never stood a chance. She didn't answer. Just kissed me. The kind of kiss that felt like the end of one story and the beginning of another. That was the last rule I broke. The one I never thought I would. I let someone in. And she didn't just change my life. She became it. The end.